every week my lifts were going up. It was incredible as far as the way my physique was changing from week to week.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Muscle for Life podcast. This is your host, Michael Matthews, and in this episode, I interview Wade, who recently completed my 90-day coaching service, to hear his story. And in this interview, he shares how he found his way to me and my work, including what he had tried previously, how things changed after he started implementing the advice in my books and articles, and then how my 90-day coaching service helped him take his body to a whole new level. Now, as with everything in life, nothing ever goes exactly as planned, and learning to adjust and adapt to conditions is an important part of the fitness game, which is something that Wade has now experienced firsthand. Along the way, he has run into a number of stumbling blocks that most of us can relate to, including exercise and meal scheduling troubles and hunger cravings and dietary temptations to stray, especially weekend temptations to stray. And in our chat, Wade shares what specifically has helped him navigate these barriers skillfully and prevent them from getting in his way. So if you like to listen to motivational stories about how people have changed their bodies and lives, and if you want to maybe pick up a few tips that might help you along in your own personal journey, then this episode's for you. This is where I would normally plug a sponsor to pay the bills, but I'm not big on promoting stuff that I don't personally use and believe in, so instead I'm just going to quickly tell you about something of mine. Specifically, my fitness book for women, Thinner, Leaner, Stronger. Now, this book has sold over 150,000 copies in the last several years, and it has helped thousands of women build their best bodies ever, which is why it currently has over 1,200 reviews on Amazon with a 4.5-star average. So if you want to know the biggest lies and myths that keep women from ever achieving the lean, sexy, strong, and healthy bodies they truly desire, and if you want to learn the simple science of building the ultimate female body, then you want to read Thinner, Leaner, Stronger today, which you can find on all major online retailers like Audible, Amazon, iTunes, Kobo, and Google Play. Now, speaking of Audible, I should also mention that you can actually get the audiobook 100% free when you sign up for an Audible account, which I highly recommend that you do if you're not currently listening to audiobooks. I myself love them because they let me make the time that I spend doing things like commuting, prepping food, walking my dog, and so forth into more valuable and productive activities. So if you want to take Audible up on this offer and get my book for free, simply go to www.bitly.com/free TLS book. And that will take you to Audible, and then you just have to click the sign up today and save button, create your account, and voila, you get to listen to Thinner, Leaner, Stronger for free. Alrighty, that is enough shameless plugging for now at least. Let's get to the show. Hey Wade, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, as these episodes go, this is going to be about you and your story. And for people listening, I kind of break it down a little bit in the intro, but a lot of people skip intros. So just so you know, I like to once a month interview, I guess everybody now has been people that have gone through my coaching service, my 90-day transformation coaching service, just because they've been very accessible and, open to doing it. But I also will probably branch out in the future and speak to people that have just read my books and just kind of used my advice in general. But the idea is to just talk to real people out there and get their stories, and not only to, obviously it has marketing value, right? But that's not really my primary reason for doing it. One of the primary reasons I want to do this is it's fine to start with, like, take one of my books or take any book or any program out there, anything you can learn on the internet. It's great to have a starting point, but rarely does a one size fits all diet or exercise program or, even supplementation regimen work exactly the way that you want it to for everybody. Inevitably along the way, there are usually modifications that need to be made to fit a person's preferences and goals and lifestyles and so forth. So I thought that by interviewing people like Wade, people that have either gone through my coaching services or, just kind of followed my programs and advices, and find out how did it go specifically for them? What were the obstacles that they ran into that weren't necessarily addressed in my writings or speakings or anything? And how did they overcome them? And what are some of the lessons that they learned along the way? So that's why we're here, Wade. Again, thanks for taking the time. So let's start with the beginning for you. And for that, let's say, how did you find your way to me and my work? What were you doing previously? Where had that gotten you, both the good and the bad?
I've always been a skinny guy, very athletic and, lots of stamina, and always been happy with my appearance and my physique. As a younger guy, I'm in my 40s, early 40s now. I was never inhibited in anything I wanted to do. I was very active. However, I'd never really worked out as far as lifting weights, strength training, or anything like that. It just never was something that I got into or was interested in that much, to be honest. However, when I was in my mid-30s, things started happening. I noticed, these rolls when I sat down that I'd never had before in my gut area, which I didn't like. But, it still wasn't enough to make me want to work out or do something about it. Probably in my later 30s, 37 or so, 36, I had a health checkup, and my goodness, my triglycerides were out the roof above 500. My cholesterol was above 350.
Wow.
My blood pressure was high. I was not in the shape that I'd been used to being in, most of my life. The kicker for me was I had actually took my left hand and wrapped it around my bicep, and God honest truth, I could almost touch my fingers. That was embarrassing to me, just for myself.
You had kind of like a "do I even lift" moment.
Exactly. It was terrible. I had gotten more sedentary later on. Obviously age and non-activity was catching up with me. My older brother had been asking me to work out with him for years, and I was not ever interested. So at that moment, I got in contact with him and started working out with his routine. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what to do. I was just doing what I was told to do. So it was basically a 3-day-a-week routine. We did 2 sets. The first set was 15 reps, and the second set would be heavier weight at 6 reps. It worked okay. It worked okay for a few months. I never was really interested in getting serious about it until one day he just stopped working out, and so I didn't have a partner anymore, and I didn't really like his routine too much. So I guess, Mike, that's where I found you somehow or another, looking up different routines and different workout regimens, and I still wasn't very knowledgeable about anything. I ran into your site in 2013, your information and your books, soaked up as much as I could, started with the Bigger, Leaner, Stronger program, ordered the book immediately. That's where it began. And within just a few weeks, I was seeing results that I hadn't seen before. But that's how I ran into you, basically in a moment where my health was declining, my physique was terrible. And, I was the ultimate skinny fat guy. It was horrifying as far as, what I'd been used to most of my life and the direction I was going.
And how did it go in the beginning? So you get on the program, you're starting to see results. How did that go?
Still didn't know what I was doing, really, to be honest with you. So
sure.
I did as much as I could, followed instructions and form as best I could. And one of the most impressive things, I guess, for me, was some questions I had. And I just emailed you like a couple of weeks after starting the routine. And you emailed me back quickly. That was pretty impressive. That really got me definitely more interested. And so when I first started the program, I guess I was doing okay, but I still hadn't had any thought of changing my diet, which was terrible. And the more I read your book, and the more I realized that was probably one of the more significant things that I needed to do as far as getting things, my physique, the way I wanted to.
I mean, I think exercise is a good place to start for a lot of people. That I've even told people that if they feel a bit overwhelmed in the beginning, not that that was necessarily you, but I've emailed with a lot of people that have felt overwhelmed in the beginning. And I tell them, all right, let's just start simple. Why don't you just start with, here, 3 days a week. Let's have a push day. Let's have a pull day. Let's have a legs day. I even have an article here on my website. Just follow this simple 3-day routine and then come back to me in like a month. Don't even worry about your diet. The furthest I'd recommend is try to make a quote unquote, maybe some healthier decisions here and there, but let's start with the exercise and then let's circle back around to the diet.
And that's exactly the route I took. So getting the gym time in and doing it correctly and, feeling like I was accomplishing something there was definitely the first step. And it made a difference as far as my strength and, my appearance pretty quickly, without even changing my
exactly.
diet.
And that's motivating, right? I mean, that's how I've...
Absolutely.
So then you feel more motivated because changing the diet, adding exercise at first may seem difficult or unpleasant if you are not currently exercising. But once you get going, it actually becomes something that you enjoy, especially if you enjoy your workouts, which I think most people enjoy strength training more than traditional bodybuilding workouts or circuit training workouts or high intensity workouts and so forth. You get into it, you start doing your workouts, you're like, oh, I actually kind of like these workouts. I feel good after, and it becomes a positive thing. But when it comes time to change your diet, it usually means kind of removing a lot of tasty foods that just give you nice hits of instant gratification. So that's just inherently less pleasant. It's inherently less pleasant to eat less sugar and more vegetables, for example, at least in the beginning. Whereas I think it's inherently more enjoyable to go from not exercising to exercising. At least it becomes more enjoyable, I think, faster when you have workouts that you enjoy and you see results within the first couple of weeks. You're feeling stronger, you're feeling better, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So once you get to that point, or at least for me, once I got to the point where physically I could feel and see the improvement and the results that were coming, of course it was motivating, and I wanted to learn more and do more to keep going. So that was definitely, the first couple of weeks were tough, or maybe even the first 3 weeks, because it's hard to see anything. But once you actually start seeing the results, there was no stopping me at that point. That was, I was all in, and, I wanted to learn as much as I could diet wise. Not only that, but just keep continuing to learn more about the exercises and the forms and, the best way to kind of incorporate the meals that I needed to eat and the exercise program into my day, which has changed a lot based on, my life at the moment. But one thing that I've always done is try to incorporate my gym time and my eating habits into my day the best way that it helps me to be successful at it. It's not the same, I'm sure the way I go about it isn't the same the way that a lot of people would go about it.
How do you go about it?
Work for me. I like to work out early in the mornings. And when I say early, I'm up at 4 and lifting weights by 4:20.
Why do you like it that way?
Number one, it fits into my day better because I'm very busy during the day. I run a construction business with 15 employees, and it's an all-day thing, and it's nonstop. So if I don't do it early in the morning, I have a hard time finding the time to get it done later on. Plus, there's family issues that, we all have to deal with, coming home and, taking care of the kids and making sure everybody's, doing good. And, secondary to that would be lifting weights. So early in the morning works best schedule wise, but I'm by far feel the best. I'm in a better mood in the morning. I'm stronger in the morning. I have more energy in the mornings. And
that's interesting.
So I enjoy it.
I enjoy it for all the same reasons, but I find I'm stronger later. Like if I were really trying to optimize my life for, I guess, my performance in the gym, I would be working out probably sometime around now, actually 4 or 5 p.m., like before dinner.
I got you. That's why I say everybody's a little different. And I think that I'm definitely not in the same category as most people as far as, when I like to work out. Now, not to say that I won't work out later in the day or at night sometimes if I have to, but my preference is to get up early in the morning and to go work out. And, other than my vitamins and my pulse, I don't eat my first meal usually until at least 12, usually around 1 o'clock. So, and I feel good.
Why do you do that? Do you just like to eat fewer, larger meals? It's more satisfying to you?
I do. It's much more satisfying to me. And I feel like if I eat earlier than that, for some reason, my body just wants to eat the rest of the day. Otherwise I don't even think about food until it's, I need to get some protein and some carbs in me, So my workout and my diet, I guess, would be considered, intermediate fasting, but it's not really what I knew that was until later. But I knew that that's the way that worked for me. And I got the best results from that. And I still do. That's the way I still prefer to go about my day as far as my workout and my diet.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing with that is once you understand the fundamentals, you understand the things that aren't negotiable. Like if we're talking diet, it's obviously energy balance and macronutrient balance, and you could say nutritional balance, I guess, or micronutritional balance. Once you understand there are hard boundaries, everything else is flexible. Meal timing is flexible. Meal frequency is flexible. It's pretty clear at this point, research-wise, that having intermittent fasting is not ideal for maximizing muscle growth. Ideally, you'd probably be eating, let's say, 5-ish servings of protein per day, separated by a few hours. But we're talking about, again, optimization. That's not, so long as you're eating enough calories and you're doing what you need to do in the gym and you're eating enough protein, you're still going to be able to gain muscle and strength. But if you were trying to be a natural bodybuilder, where you live and die by every pound of lean mass on your body, then you might want to consider changing that. But again, it's just knowing what are you trying to do and how does this fit into your life on the whole. That's great that you've found something that works for you, even though it's unconventional. Working out that early and then not eating for that long. I feel like I do pretty well fasting, but I don't even know. I don't think I would feel good if I did that. It wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, well, for some reason, doing any other way does not work for me. As far as, if I eat in the morning, I'm just not as energetic for some reason. And I don't know if it's a psychological thing, the way my body responds. It doesn't matter.
It just, who cares? The thing is, you just know that's how it is. So you just go with it.
Right. And I didn't figure that out like in the first month,
Sure.
I guess, following your program for the first year or so, measuring and weighing my food and counting every calorie. I mean, I was very meticulous about that for a couple of years, to the point now that, I don't really actually have to count every calorie or every macro.
Because now you know so much about what you eat, right? So you have such a good intuitive sense of the foods that you eat that, maybe if you were cutting and wanting to get super lean, there's a point where you kind of have to be pretty anal about every gram of food you're putting in your body. But I'm the same way. When I'm in maintenance mode, I don't track or measure everything I eat. I do tend to follow a meal plan, and I'm eating foods that I know and that I like, but I just know by portions at this point. I know what my meals should look like approximately. And that's one of the nice things, though, of putting in that, the more difficult, the grindy work on the dietary side of things is really getting down to tracking calories and measuring food. And by going through that process, you learn things that you can't really learn otherwise. Like, I don't know there's any other way, unless you wanted to be really academic about it and like put together flashcards of food sizes. You know what I mean? It would be nonsense. You really need to just go through that phase. So you really also see how your body responds to energy balance and macronutrient balance. And then you gain the confidence of, okay, I can take off the training wheels now and I'm not just going to fall on my face.
Right. And I don't care what anybody says. You don't realize how many calories you're getting and how many grams of protein and fat and carbs unless you've counted your calories before and have went through that process. It is ridiculous how many calories you can eat in a day without really even realizing it. Definitely an eye opener for me, realizing there is an amount of fat that you can eat in a day that is going to definitely show up the next day, 2 trips to fast food places and you're done,
Yep.
and that's what counting your calories also does for you. It kind of gives you a little bit of guilt, because you see exactly what you've eaten that day. If you've strayed off a little bit, it. The more I can know about every little detail, for some reason, I'm happier and can do better. So that definitely helped me. I couldn't really reach my goals as far as getting as lean as I wanted to without going through that process.
Yeah, I totally understand. I think that's a good segue into your results. So what here, I have some numbers in front of me, but I'll let you kind of walk through how you found your way then to the coaching service, where you were at when you started. How did that go? How did it compare to when you were flying solo?
Like I said, I've been following your program since 2013. A few years later, 3 or 4 years later, I'd stopped working out. I'd stopped even caring about what I was eating. And again, I got to a point where, gosh, I looked terrible. Although I wasn't as bad as I was before.
How come?
Life, I guess, it ended up being to the point where I was missing a day a week. And then next thing you know, I'm missing 2-3 days a week. Then I'm missing a week. And then it got to the point where I just didn't go back. And then after you haven't went back to the gym and you stop following your meal plan and
yeah. You lose all momentum.
To a point, and it's like I'm so far behind now, it'll take forever, to catch back up. But I knew going to the gym really wasn't a big problem for me. Getting the gym time in I always was able to find a way to do that. But I knew that if I was going to get back in it, I had to have some help with my meal plan, because I need accountability for sure. I'd never gotten as lean as I really wanted to get by myself. Never had a personal trainer, a dietitian or anyone helping me. Everything I've done has been on my own and with your help, going by the information I've read and learned. But there was a point I would get about 13, 14%. And then I could never get any leaner than that. I was getting stronger, building muscle, but that's really not the look I was looking for. I've never wanted to be a big muscular guy. I just don't think that look is, bodybuilding type guy. I'm 5'7", and I never wanted to be a big, short, muscular guy. I just wanted to have a nice athletic look. And to get that look, I needed to be lean. And so when I decided I was going to get back to working out, I knew that if I was going to get to where I wanted to be, I needed some help. And I'd been reading about the coaching program that you were, had been promoting, and it was fairly new at the time. But I knew that was a program I wanted to try and see if I could reach the goals that I never was able to reach on my own. Although I did very well comparatively speaking to 2013 to now, but I knew that I really needed some help to get to where I really wanted to be. So that's how I found your program.
Sure, that makes sense. And just because I'm curious, what was the underlying reason on the dietary side of things with why you get stuck? I'm assuming it was a diet thing, right?
Absolutely, it was a diet thing. I guess the best way to put it is I was not able to resist having fun, going out with friends, turning away the drinks and the food, when I really needed to, especially on the weekend. That is why I never could really reach my goals, because if I did go a week or so, I would usually trash it that weekend. But I had no one to be accountable to. I had no one but myself to sit here and say, well, you messed that up, but oh well.
How did you overcome that? How did coaching help? Was it, there's accountability, but I'm sure there was also a little bit more to it, because that's something that, I've gotten emailed about many, many times, is whether it's from the angle of peer pressure or just the angle of, I like to enjoy myself. And obviously, we're social animals. We like to be around other people. And for me, that usually means being at restaurants or being around food, being around alcohol, even if it's just being over at somebody's Harry's house. How did you deal with that differently when you were going through the coaching program?
Well, to me, how my coach Harry was able to help me in that with my diet was the key to the success for me. We started with a meal plan, of course, what I like to eat and, what would satisfy me as far as, eating during the day. And so that was pretty easy to do. However, as we got into it, a good 3 or 4 weeks, and every day I had to pretty much let him know, what my calories were, my macros. And if I didn't come in at my calorie goal, he didn't have a problem asking me why, what's going on. And pretty much I had to tell him what was going on. And my biggest hurdle was the weekends. I want to go out Friday or Saturday, wherever it was, like you said, a friend's house, go out to eat, the lake, whatever, I really didn't have a lot of self-control. Now, what Harry did for me was introduce the idea that, of course, more cardio work to burn the calories during the week. But not only that, things like taking hikes over the weekend and saving my calories during the day for the meals during the weekend, doing things extra that would help me burn those calories. And not only that, giving me ideas about food choices that I could still enjoy myself on the weekends, but maybe try something a little different. It's even with the drinks, Harry seemed knowledgeable about, the kinds of drinks that I enjoy, whether it be a mixed drink or a beer. He made suggestions on other choices I could, use instead. And what ended up happening was I started doing the hikes on the weekend, which became something I really enjoyed and was doing more and more of. And I also upped my cardio during the week after my workouts. So I was burning more calories. I was doing more physical exercise on the weekend. And I changed my eating habits a little bit during the weekend, but not a whole lot. But the extra time I put in the cardio area and the hikes on the weekends allowed me to still not go crazy on the weekends, but still enjoy myself and still reach my goals.
Yeah, that's great. And those are simple things that everybody can do. I mean, your workout habits and your dietary habits during the week are unusual or uncommon. The weekend problem, of course, is super common. Yeah, those are very good tips for anybody to take away. Be physically active if you can over the weekend. And, I myself, because I'm usually pushing myself pretty hard in the gym, I try to make sure that I have at least one day per week of no vigorous physical activity. Hiking is a great option because it's not that taxing on the body unless you're like into some crazy hardcore style of hiking. But otherwise, it's just kind of like a bit more difficult walking. And also, like for me, it's too cold right now, but golf is another good example of something that I'll do that's physically active. You move around, you burn some energy, but you're not really cutting into your recovery, and then saving calories. So, if you know that you're going to be going out to dinner, just eating your protein throughout the day and saving all your carbs and fats for the dinner, and then adding cardio through the week. So yeah, bumping up your total weekly energy expenditure, because you can look at your energy expenditure however you want, really. You could look at it in a day-to-day, and you could also look at it on a week-to-week basis where, depending on your goals, really what we're doing with the daily is creating the weekly. So you can also look at it, though, from that zoomed-out perspective and be like, okay, I know that my weekend, you can even say like on the weekend, I'm going to assume that I'm going to be actually in a slight surplus at least one of these days. And so, how can I account for that, or how can I mitigate I wouldn't say damage, but depending on it, like if you're cutting and you're trying to get there as quickly as possible, you go, what can I do here? All right, I could bump up my expenditure a few days a week by adding, even if it's just 20 minutes of cardio 2 or 3 days a week. And then that buys me that room on the weekend to enjoy myself, and I still get to make the progress that I want to make.
And that is exactly the route I took with, the suggestions that my coach gave me. But I can't reiterate enough, though, how actually knowing when I'm eating or drinking something more than I should, thinking in the back of my head, and even my girlfriend and my friends would laugh at me and say, what's Harry going to say, I would, because I have to be accountable to him. And if I was going to, put the effort in that I needed to, I had to be honest about what I ate that day. And he was very good at letting me know, it's okay. It's a step backwards, but we can move forward this way. He was constantly in contact with me. He sent me articles all the time on the situations that I was dealing with, as far as dietary, plus other things. I had a little bit of a neck injury, pain in my neck that I was dealing with for about 3 weeks there. And he sent me different types of exercises to use and to do during that time until it healed up. So it was a constant communication between myself and my coach, which made things a lot easier because, like I said, the accountability factor, and just to know that my coach is there looking out for me and making sure that I'm staying on the right track and keeping me in line. And for me, that was key. And I knew that when I signed up for the coaching service, that would be what would either make or break me as far as my success. And like I said, I was 100% satisfied with how it went and the accountability that I did have in that 90-day program.
That's great. And just because we haven't shared the exact results here, so you started at 157 pounds, right, around 16% body fat. And then 90 days later, you weighed about 145 pounds. You reverse dieted for the last few weeks. So your lowest weight was 143 at about 9 to 10% body fat. And what's also kind of cool is with your measurements. So you dropped 3 inches from your waist, but your shoulder measurement stayed the same, which is good, which means you probably gained a little bit of muscle because it depends how much fat. We all tend to store our fat differently. Like there are places that we have stubborn, all of us guys at least have stubborn fat in that lower abdomen region. We just all do. But fat distribution can vary quite a bit from person to person. Like some people just tend to store a lot less fat in their abdomen region and more in their chest and shoulders, which is bullshit. But that's so what happens is you'll have guys. I mean, my brother-in-law is like this. He could be 12 or 13% body fat, but he has the abs that you'd expect at maybe 9 or 10%, and he just looks bigger up top because he just tends to preferentially store fat in his shoulders and chest when of course he keeps on going, it goes everywhere. But so anyways, it's good to see that something like a shoulder measurement, for example, didn't go down. Your arm measurements went up by a half inch and 3/4 of an inch respectively. Your chest measurement was about half of an inch down, which, again, you really honestly, when you're cutting, you usually expect measurements to go down a little bit, especially like a chest measurement. And then your upper leg measurement went up by 1.5 inches. So by all accounts, I guess what I don't have here is I'm just curious if you remember, how were your lifts? Were you gaining strength throughout the cut?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I was getting stronger every week. And now towards the end of the program, and after I'd lost quite a bit of fat and weight, I started to plateau a little bit on some exercises, but my lifts steadily went up. I don't have them in front of me either, but some impressive gains, especially my deadlift, my overhead press. Those especially, at that time I was benching almost as much as I've ever benched before. I've done more since then, but not without more body fat on me.
Sure.
Yes, every week my lifts were going up. It was incredible as far as the way my physique was changing from week to week. As the body fat percentage went down, the strength went up. I may have lost an inch or a half inch on my chest.
I actually misspoke. I was just going to let you know, it was 0.5 of an inch. I looked at it wrong. Yeah. So essentially it was the same measurement. I can do math. I'm smart. But yeah, no, it was 38.5 and 38.75. I looked at it wrong as I was scrolling through, but so essentially it's the same measurement.
But the look was from the beginning of the 90 days to the end was incredible difference. And
that's just the nature of every muscle just looks better when you're leaner, right?
Absolutely, it does. That is exactly the look that I was looking to achieve when I signed up for your program, your coaching service. And by God, that's exactly what I got out of it.
That's great. And where have you gone from there? I'm just curious.
What's happened since then is for the next 8 months. I was steadily continuing on the program myself, got as strong as I ever gotten. About 7 months after that, I was probably back around 13% body fat, but had gotten really, really strong as far for my size of weight. And then I had an accident at work. I was picking up some 90-pound sacks of concrete and twisting and handing them to another person. About 8 or 9, my back just went out on me. So I herniated a disc is what I ended up doing at work. And so that set me back a good bit. I actually had surgery done, discectomy, about 6 months ago. Thankfully, that helped and got me back to where I wasn't just living in pain every day. So I've been back on the program, and not as strong as I was and not as lean as I was, but I look pretty damn good as far as I'm concerned.
And plus, you have experience on your side. You also have muscle memory on your side. Like, you know now how it works. And even if that means that you're going to have to stay away from certain exercises or take it easier on certain exercises, you know that you can work around that too. There's just nothing that is in the way of you getting back to where you want to be, even if you can't do it in the exact same way that you did before.
I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah, I'm not going to be deadlifting, and I'm not going to be barbell squatting. I want to. Those were my favorite exercises of all time. I love no better feeling than to be able to pick up some heavy ass weight in the gym, when you're half the size of some of the bigger guys in there. But I'm not going to risk my back to a deadlift, maybe do some light stuff. But I have found my way around those exercises through split squats and Bulgarian squats and back extensions and other exercises. I do a lot more of my exercises seated. My overhead press with dumbbells, just anything I can do to take compression off my spine, which has worked out really good. I've played around with a lot of different exercises, and still on your program. I have bought the Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger book, but I think it just gets a little more complicated than I need to be. The program I started with, I got where I wanted to be with it, and I don't see why I should change it up other than just every now and then start with a different exercise or use a dumbbell instead of a barbell or something that way. But
you can also do simple things like, you can be systematic about it if you want to be the XL person, or you can kind of more just go by feel, where you are occasionally increasing volume on certain muscle groups that you want to bring up you could take like your last 3 sets of an exercise, or take your normal or of a workout, and then take your normal workout and maybe add a few sets of some higher rep, and it can be isolation type stuff. Like, there are some easy things you can do. And really what it comes down to is, so long as you are continuing to make progress, you don't really have a reason to change anything. Beyond BLS is meant for people that are no longer really progressing with, because what Bigger, Leaner, Stronger really is I took like a kind of a basic push-pull legs strength program, and then incorporated some bodybuilding stuff into it, and particularly to add volume to certain muscle groups that us guys care about, and that also just take a lot of work. Like, most guys, if you just do a few sets of squatting and deadlifting per week, maybe more than just a few, I'd say a few sets of deadlifting and a few plus sets of squatting per week, you're going to have the lower body. You're going to be happy with your lower body a lot faster than your upper body if you just did the same thing. If you just did a few sets of bench pressing and a few plus sets of pulling, or even a few plus sets of bench pressing and pulling, because unfortunately the pecs, the shoulders, the biceps in particular, and certain muscles in the back, like the lats, just tend to be stubborn. They just take time. So, that's why I put together the program in that way, where pure strength programs have a lot of lower body volume. And that's cool if you want to be really strong in the big 3. And especially if you want to do competitions and put up big numbers, you need a really impressive, you need a really strong squat and deadlift. But that also comes with a certain type of physique, a more bottom heavy physique, where you're going to have very big legs, you're going to have a very big butt, and your upper body's probably going to be disproportionately small unless you adjust for it, because a traditional strength training program is going to have you put a lot more volume into your lower body. And that's kind of the opposite of what most guys want. if anything, if they're going to have an imbalance in terms of size, they'd rather have it in the upper body, not the lower body. Of course, for me, I'd say let's not have an imbalance at all, and let's have it be proportionate. Right. But yeah, so for Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, it's meant more for a person that's like, okay, I've pretty much squeezed everything I can out of simple programming, and it's not that things need to get complex, but I need to add a couple more moving parts to continue progressing. And the bottom line is we have to make our bodies work even harder. And that's why, for example, research shows that volume, just total volume, is very much correlated with muscle growth and even strength, meaning that like over time, our workouts just need to be getting more difficult. And one way to make them more difficult, if we want to continue putting on size and strength, especially as a natural weightlifter, and one way to make your workouts more difficult is to just do more volume. Just sit in the gym for longer and do more reps. And of course, progressive overload applies. And of course, you want to be ending most of your sets a couple reps, a rep or two shy of failure. These need to be hard sets. But that's one way to just force your body to continue to adapt and improve is more hard sets. There are other things you can do. You can also incorporate different rep ranges. You can lift some really heavy weights, which help you gain strength faster, some moderately heavy weights, which are kind of in the middle, and some lighter weights, which are not so great necessarily for strength gain. I mean, they can be, but practically speaking, they're just not as good, but are all good for getting more volume and getting some more metabolic stress in your muscle cells and so forth. So the long story short is with Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger is it's not necessary. Again, if you're happy with how your body's responding, you can keep it simple and just stick with a simpler kind of strength bodybuilding hybrid type of programming.
Yes, and I did read the whole book, and I have incorporated little tidbits of Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger into my program over the last couple of years, for the most part, and especially the arms. That is something that I felt like I could work more as far as get more work in on my arms every week. So, doing the lighter sets and doing the heavy sets in the same workout, seemed to work good. And I'll tell you something else that your program, I probably feel is, get as much satisfaction and sense of accomplishment out of at the end of 3 days a week. There's the ab circuit. And when I was able to finally, go through all 3 exercises without stopping, of course, my abs would be on fire and dying, but doing 3 sets of that circuit, the satisfaction you get out of doing that, for me was really, really, motivating, because not only did it feel good to know that I could finally reach that point and keep adding weight and keep adding more time to whatever exercise I was doing, whether it be cable crunches or air bikes or leg raises, ab rollout. Not only did I feel a sense of accomplishment, but my goodness, what a way to get your core strong and physically make those abs and obliques pop out. That is, if I could recommend one thing for anyone who wants nice abs and a nice V-shaped look, of course, with the diet. But that ab circuit was something I would have never thought about really having to do, because that's quite a bit of work on your core, which it takes that if you really want to reach, a very muscular abs with that V-shaped look. And when I started doing that is really when I started noticing a huge difference in my abs and midsection.
Yeah, that's definitely, I talk about that in Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and that's something that I too was surprised that just how much work it took to get you just don't realize, like you said, just how muscular your core has to be to have the look that most guys want. They wouldn't necessarily, they would think that doesn't that just you just get lean and then that's what you have, right? Like, no, it's very rare. It's rare for guys to even who do a lot of heavy compound weightlifting, which heavily involves the core, to have it's the abs, the rectus abdominis, the big blocky muscles in the front that most people think of as abs. That in particular tends to just need a lot of work to be developed enough to look really good when you're lean. If any people listening, if you've ever seen guys or girls who are lean but just seem to have very underdeveloped, underwhelming abs, And it's often because they're the muscles, the core muscles, and it's not just the rectus abdominis, there are several others, but it's usually because the core muscles are just underdeveloped and they need to put in 6 months of hard work on their core muscles in addition to whatever they're already doing. And again, heavy compound weightlifting is not always enough. Sometimes, and I'd say probably most people really do need to put in a lot more work. But then the nice thing, and I don't know if you found this, but I found this, is I still train my abs usually twice a week. And on the other days, I'm doing calves. I refuse to give up on them. But I found that you don't need to do nearly as much work to maintain. Because like I've gotten to a point where actually I kind of don't want more muscle development per se in my core at all. I don't want more obliques. I don't really want larger, blockier abs, the rectus abdominis. That's what happens. I mean, if you continue to blast it, it will continue to grow. Some people like that look. They think that's cool to have really big, blocky abs. Not quite the look that I like. So I'm kind of happy now with where my core development is at. And it's very easy to maintain that. So, I probably don't even need to do the ab training to maintain it. The heavy squatting and deadlifting and overhead pressing alone and bench pressing would probably be enough. I just do it because it doesn't take very much time, and I figure why not. But as with any muscle group, yes, it can be a pain in the ass to get it to where you want to be. But once you're there, you can really let off the gas and focus that time and effort on something else. Even if it's a workout thing, again, like calves, I'll put more time and effort into that because those are not yet at the point where I just want to maintain them.
Exactly. The other great benefit of the ab circuit is, I'm sure, the amount of calories it burns, because I'm just completely wasted at the end of it. And another great way to help keep burning those calories and staying lean, not only are you building your ab muscles and your core, but you're also helping to burn the fat and show those muscles off. So it's definitely probably one of the things I do look forward to, every time I go into the gym.
Awesome. Well, that's everything I had on my list. I really appreciate you taking the time, Wade. Again, great job on everything you've done so far. I'm glad to hear that you got past the injury and now you're back at it. Just really appreciate it.
Yep. Same here, Mike. I appreciate everything. Over the last several years, I've gotten a lot of advice from you, personally through email and through your books and website, and looking forward to continuing my journey.
And if you, dear listener, want to learn more about my coaching service and how we might be able to help you reach your health and fitness goals faster, just head over to muscleforlife.com/coaching, muscleforlife.com/coaching, and you can learn all about it and schedule a free consultation call where my director of coaching, Matthew, will get on the phone with you and talk about where you've been, where you want to go, and how we might be able to help you get there faster and more enjoyably, which counts for something. Again, muscleforlife.com/coaching. Check it out. Hey there, it's Mike again. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it interesting and helpful. And if you did and don't mind doing me a favor, then please do give this video a like and leave a comment down below. Not only do I like to hear from everybody and I jump in and reply to as many comments as I can, it also helps other people find their way to the show and learn how to build their best bodies ever too. And of course, if you want to be notified when the next episode goes live, then just subscribe to my channel and you won't miss out on any of the new content. Lastly, if you didn't like something about the show, then definitely shoot me an email at mike@muscleforlife.com and share your thoughts on how you think it could be better. I read everything myself, and I'm always looking for constructive feedback, so please do reach out. Thanks again for listening to the episode, and I hope to hear from you soon. And lastly, this episode is brought to you by me. Seriously though, I'm not big on promoting stuff that I don't personally use and believe in, so instead, I'm going to just quickly tell you about something of mine. Specifically, my fitness book for women, Thinner, Leaner, Stronger. Now, this book has sold over 150,000 copies in the last several years, and it has helped thousands of women build their best bodies ever, which is why it currently has over 1,200 reviews on Amazon with a 4.5-star average. So, if you want to know the biggest lies and myths that keep women from ever achieving the lean, sexy, strong, and healthy bodies they truly desire, and if you want to learn the simple science of building the ultimate female body, then you want to read Thinner, Leaner, Stronger today, which you can find on all major online retailers like Audible, Amazon, iTunes, Kobo, and Google Play. Now, speaking of Audible, I should also mention that you can actually get the audiobook 100% free when you sign up for an Audible account, which I highly recommend that you do if you're not currently listening to audiobooks. I myself love them because they let me make the time that I spend doing things like commuting, prepping food, walking my dog, and so forth into more valuable and productive activities. So if you want to take Audible up on this offer and get my book for free, simply go to www.bitly.com/free TLS book. And that will take you to Audible. And then you just have to click the sign up today and save button, create your account, and voila, you get to listen to Thinner, Leaner, Stronger for free.